කැලිෆෝනියා දැන්.
කැලිෆෝනියාවට ආවද?
ඔව්. එහෙමයි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ.
ඔව්. බොහොම හොඳයි. දැන් මෙහෙ එන්නේ ලබන මාසෙද?
එහෙමයි ස්වාමීන්
එතකොට Chitra, very few people.
Morning, Bhante.
Sukiyata.
Morning Bhante.
Sukiya. Bhavana.
Morning, Bhante.
Inoka and Bill. Yeah.
Good morning, Bhante.
Good morning. Oh, you. What is your name?
I'm Liz.
Huh?
Liz.
Lenny.
Yes.
Okay. Lenny. This is OC.
Morning, Bhante.
This is, she is muted already. Okay.
Good morning.
Okay, very good. And this is Brian, another Brian. We have one Brian here, Brian Petzer. Pister, okay. Okay, let us begin our Metta Chaturi. Okay, let us begin our Metta recital. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless living friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hatred or resentment. Whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake, one should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Let us, with this metta thought, let us begin our meditation. Friends, we have to recite these words with very clean mind, with utmost sincerity, wishing what we read or recited. That way it really works in very clearly, effectively in our mind. With this background, let us focus our mind on our breath, noticing inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling. noticing the feeling of breath. As we focus our mind on the feeling of breath, the breath becomes calm and relaxed. The body and mind become calm and relaxed. With this calm, relaxed mental state, we keep breathing. Mind becomes so relaxed. Desire or greed does not arise at that time. That makes the mind even more calm, more relaxed, more peaceful. As we know, desire is an agitator in a way. When it is not there, mind becomes even calmer and more peaceful. That is the time we really experience the feeling of metta. This metta feeling is very, very relaxing because there is no any discrimination whatsoever. We recited very beautiful, meaningful words, and if we recited them with sincerity, we now feel the metta feeling. That makes even the mind more peaceful, more calm, more relaxed. That sometimes can make us sleepy or drowsy. And we want to get rid of sleepiness or drowsiness by arousing energy. Buddha strongly recommended that we should pay mindful attention to the visualized image of bright light. In other words, visualize very bright light. That would help us to get rid of our drowsiness, sleepiness, heaviness of the head. And then we have another technique that Buddha recommended, that is to take a deep breath, hold it as long as we can, and slowly breathe out, and repeat that several times until our body warms up, sleepiness disappears. When sleepiness disappears, we even may have excessive energy that might lead to restlessness and worry. Restlessness arises due to incomplete things we have done, or incorrect things we have done, or some traumatic experience, or some very pleasant experience in the past. Or we might ponder over the future, planning, thinking of what we are going to do after this session and so forth. This way, mind can vacillate between the past and the future. When we notice this situation, we want to keep the mind in the present moment. One way of keeping mind in the present moment is to focus the mind on the present movement, activity, which is our breath. We started focusing mind on the breath. Now we return to it. Then wandering mind will disappear. when it happens, we are very good state of mind with little hitch, that is our doubt. We want to overcome our doubt with regard to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and our own practice, our success. When we think of the Buddha, his noble, great qualities, and also that Buddha taught us this wonderful method of liberating ourselves from samsaric suffering from his own personal experience. He followed the path, achieved the goal, and then shared it with us and everyone in the world. And therefore there is no doubt about what he taught. And also he followed the Dhamma, made Dhamma his teacher. Only thing that he could put above him was the Dhamma. And he followed it and gave us an assurance that if we follow that path, we too can attain the same state. Following his advice, closest disciples like bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, laymen and laywomen attain the same enlightenment. So he is a wonderful teacher who guided us in the right direction. So we must have full confidence in the Buddha. Dhamma he taught us came out from his own personal experience, and Dhamma he realized is always there, whether the Buddhas come into existence or not. Even though Buddha doesn't exist now in physically, the Dhamma he taught us is there. We follow that Dhamma. That is what we are doing. And also, we have to have confidence in ourselves. We already have overcome 4 of the 5 hindrances: greed, resentment, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry. Now what remains is doubt. Seeing the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha in the way I explained, we have overcome that doubt and doubt about our own success. Also we can overcome by seeing what we have already done. Therefore we are on the way. We too can attain the same state. With this confidence, we continue our practice with joy. For by overcoming hindrances, the joy arises that nothing is in our way to block our practice. That would help us to gain more confidence, relax, becoming more peaceful, leading up to gaining happiness. When we gain happiness, or when the mind is full of happiness, we gain concentration, because this happiness is not agitation, not simple, mundane happiness. This is very altruistic happiness that we gain without expecting anything material, purely by overcoming hindrances, developing our mind, gaining concentration. when we have happiness, when we are happy, we gain true concentration. This concentration is so good, so clear, that it helps us to see things as they really are, as Buddha repeatedly mentioned in many places. Concentrated mind sees things as they really are. What are the things? Our body, feelings, perception, volition, and consciousness. These are the things that we can see very clearly. What we see very clearly in these 5, what is called aggregates, is that they are changing constantly, continuously, without any gap. Always they change. So many cells, so many parts of the body are always in function, in action, movement, in motion. And that happens all the time. When we see this reality, no desire can arise to hold on to anything, because holding on to anything is mere thought. It can never be implemented because things are changing so fast. And therefore we don't develop our greed or hatred or delusion. There is no delusion regarding these changes, because we experience them, at least some of them. And then this is what we want to do in order to liberate ourselves from samsaric suffering. So with this very important ideas, thoughts, instruction, let us continue our practice. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, friends, our friend Veronique or Chaturi will read your questions for me, and you may ask your question or write them on your side chat box, and then I try to answer them.
Okay, Bhante, maybe we need to give people a little bit of time. There's one question. I tend to think I am not afraid or repulsed by my body or its functions. I had my own experience with cancer, and I am a caregiver for my husband, which means I managed to get in and come out of this body, all ends. Bhante, I think there is probably aversion and misunderstanding in my mind. Can you offer guidance so that I may understand better?
Okay. First part of the question I did not hear. Chaturi, could you repeat it?
Yes. The person thinks that they don't have a revulsion towards their own body, and they had an experience with cancer, and also they're taking care of their husband. And so they have a feeling of going, they feel that they can manage what goes in and comes out of the body. They have a feeling that maybe all ends. As they want to know if there is aversion for the body, is there a misunderstanding regarding aversion for the body?
Aversion of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think I mentioned this in our mindfulness, 4 foundations of mindfulness discourses, that when we practice meditation, we should be very mindful not to let emotions sneak into our mind. I also mentioned several times when we focus mind on the 32 parts of the body, 4 elements, and 9 stages of symmetry or channel ground meditation, we must keep the mind in a equanimous state without letting it get carried away with emotions, especially resentment or greed. These two are as hindrances as well as fetters are in our way. In the beginning of instructions that Buddha has given in Satipatthana Sutta, we have to overcome these two very difficult mental states, emotions. And that is why we have to see very clearly rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling, appearing and disappearing, impermanence, Impermanence in itself is neither good nor bad, but it is just a phenomenon, just an occurrence happening to everything, every thought, every perception, every volition, every moment of consciousness. Every feeling is changing. Perception is changing. They all are impermanent. So focus the mind on impermanence of each and every part of the body. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. To begin with, these are the 5 very visible factors, parts of our body. And see each of them impermanence. Make it very clear in your mind. Although hair seems to be steady, but it is always changing. That is why after sometimes we lose hair turn grey, and hair mature. All this happen to hair because hair is not permanent. It is impermanent, whether head hair or body hair. Nail, we have to trim nails, cut nails, polish nails, and yet nails keep either growing, making weak and dry, and we lose even our nails, its texture, its appearance, its polishness, all disappear. Teeth, of course, we all know our teeth are not permanent. That is why we have to go to dentist, and very often we have to clean and take care of our teeth. In spite of all this, sometimes our teeth gives us pain, toothache, and we have to sometimes remove, or sometimes teeth fall by themselves. They become shaky and loose, disappear. Similarly, our skin at one stage is very shining, smooth, tender, beautiful, clean, and eventually it becomes hard, rough, wrinkles, looks not so pleasant, not so shining. All this happened to our first 5 physical parts in our body. Same thing happens inside parts of our body. And Buddha mentioned many times, many examples for us to use in order to understand this. Our external parts of our world, earth, air, water, fire elements are changing. Similarly, this body made up of those elements, head, hair, body hair, and so forth, all are made up of elements. Therefore, they also change. Element in external, element in internal, all are changing. Remember, yesterday in my talk I said this body, with all these changes, when we lose our consciousness, heat, and life expectancy, when we lose all of them, this body is like a piece of wood, worse than a wood. And it goes through various stages, decomposing, rotting, until it turns into dust. All this we mention in order for us to understand impermanent nature. Impermanent nature. When we grasp this meaning clearly, focus our mind on this impermanent nature, then there is no room for greed, hatred, resentment to arise in our mind. That's what I would like to suggest, and I want to repeat no matter how many times until you understand it properly, correctly, and use it in your life to deal with any emotion. Okay, as this is very important question, I spend much time answering this question. What is the next?
Okay, next question is, Bhante, how does this meditation lead a mind to Nibbana?
Repeat the question again, please.
How does this meditation channel ground meditation, how does it lead a mind to Nibbana?
That's true. The same way that I mentioned earlier, when we see impermanence, as I said, you gain concentration, and concentrated mind, gaining concentration is very important. We have to first understand why we gain concentration. Understanding comes first as the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path. When we understand, what do we understand? We understand impermanence. We understand unsatisfactoriness. We understand selflessness. When we understand impermanence, as I mentioned just answering the previous question, when everything is impermanent without any exception, and our desire for clinging to anything fades away, reduces, weakens, and finally will disappear from our mind. Impermanence we must see very clearly. To overcome, get rid of our greed. Greed or desire is the cause of our suffering. Once we have dealt with greed, everything else becomes easier. To get rid of greed, we have to have full understanding of impermanence. And then hatred. There will not be any hatred in us, as I mentioned earlier, when we see impermanence clearly, impartially, without involving in emotion. As I repeatedly say, just like scientists look at a very fine material through the microscope, powerful microscope, to see its composition, its characters, behavior, and so forth, and take data, collect data, and through analysis of data, that scientists come to a certain positive result, which is not his own personal experience. This is the universal truth that the person gained. And if any other scientist runs the same test, that scientist also will come to the same conclusion. Similarly, without getting involved in emotion, we just train the mind to see things exactly as they are. Body, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness. And then there will no longer be any doubt, any confusion, because we see it crystal clear in our experience. That way we will be able to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion, and all other defilements that stem out of these three major defilements. All will vanish and we'll liberate ourselves from suffering. That is how we attain enlightenment. That is how we attain Nibbana. So the path is very clear, we all have to follow that clear path. Beginning with right understanding, right understanding. Okay, next question.
This person wants to ask the question themselves, so I have to unmute. So Francis, if you can just unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Let me change my device so that I will hear better. Hearing device.
Okay.
Just a second.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, now you can read the question again.
Francis, please go ahead. He wanted to ask himself, so please go ahead and ask the question.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was. Ananda has always been very interesting to me. In fact, in many ways, his attitudes have the markings of an amazed, energetic scientist. When it comes to yesterday's Dhamma talk of Bhante gave us, Ananda's assessment of the Buddha, what was at one time smooth, radiant, that organ of the skin and hair is now brittle, fallen away, like a cracked, dry mud, etc. When Buddha's paranibbana takes place and time, juxtaposition-wise, Ananda, overcome with grief and tears emotions, and cannot reach arahanthood until he changes disposition. Why is this, Bhante?
Ananda also had to follow the same path that the Buddha followed. Until Buddha passed away, Ananda was very busy attending to the Buddha's needs, and therefore he could not attain it until Buddha passed away, attain enlightenment. After Buddha passed away, he very seriously practiced meditation, insight, meditation, in the way that Buddha has explained in Satipatthana Sutta. And he did it very, very intensely. That intensive practice made his mind clear, and it is said that he is the only one who attained that state, neither sitting, nor standing, nor walking, nor lying down, but in between these postures, he attained the same state of enlightenment as the Buddha did. So the attainment was the same. Attainment was the same. But he finally attained the same state and had the same bliss and peace, peaceful state. There's no difference. So there may not be any question after that.
Thank you.
Is it Michael?
Francis.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome.
Better now. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. There are some people who do not esteem their body because their negative perception of their appearance. For example, they may be anorectic, they don't feel good about their body, they have a distorted perception of how they look. Is this body contemplation, that is this contemplation of the 32 parts of the body and charnel ground contemplation, still necessary or beneficial if they have this wrong view? Can this be skipped and can the person concentrate on other aspects of satipatthana and ignore this practice, at least for the time being, if they feel really bad about how they look? Should they skip it?
Okay, if they have some difficulties in focusing mind on the 32 parts of the body, they can practice only mindfulness of breathing. And that is exactly what Buddha taught when he came to know that monks committed suicide and homicide and reduced the number of monks. Then Buddha completely changed the subject and asked them to practice mindfulness of breathing. Anapanasati Sutta is the discourse that he delivered after that. That discourse he delivered from after these monks committed suicide and homicide. And therefore, if somebody has any problem with mindfulness of the body, they can practice mindfulness of breathing. The results will be the same. Mindfulness of breathing, when you practice diligently, exactly as it is given in the discourse, one can attain 7 factors of enlightenment, and that will definitely lead to attainment of liberation. Out of 7 factors of enlightenment, first is mindfulness. That mindfulness is seeing impermanence of everything. So instead of focusing the mind on the body parts, one can meditate on the breathing, and the breath becomes subtler and subtler and subtler. Even in that subtlest state of breath, one will see impermanence. That is what we read in Maranasati discourse in Anguttara Nikaya, second Maranasati discourse. There were 6 monks. One monk said to the Buddha, if he lived long enough to finish his food that he took into his hand, chew, munch and swallow, if he lives that long to finish that morsel of food, that time is enough for him to practice mindfulness of death. That means he could see impermanence very clearly during that short period. And the other monk said, if I live long enough to take one inhaling and one exhaling, during that time I can see death, impermanence, and that long time is enough for me to liberate myself from samsaric suffering. So the person has to develop the mind to see the subtlest changes of even the breath. That is good subject for people who cannot focus mind on the breath. Sariputta's disciples who could not focus the mind on the body part, Buddha gave him a lotus flower to see impermanence in the lotus flower. He put the lotus, Buddha asked him to stick the flower in the ground near a pond and sit in front of it, focusing his mind on the flower. Fresh water dripping, full of fragrance, new flower, slowly withered, and its petal fell on the ground, and the whole stalk of the flower, lotus, also withered and fell on the ground. That scene was enough for him to gain true wisdom and liberate himself. So there are various other subjects. If somebody has some problem with focusing mind on one's own body, they can use some other subject. Okay, next question.
How do the Bojjhanga relate to the Jhananga?
Bojjhanga relate to Jhananga?
Yes.
I see, that's a good question also. Jhananga are, first Jhananga, initial application, sustained application, joy, happiness, and concentration. And then the second jhana is concentration and joy, happiness. Third jhana is equanimity and happiness. Fourth jhana is pure mindfulness and pure equanimity. When these all are together, they are jhanic factors. Now, in each jhana, there is mindfulness. Without mindfulness, you cannot liberate yourself. So the jhanic, what you call Bojjhanga, first Bojjhanga is mindfulness factor. The 7 factors. First factor is mindfulness factor. Mindfulness factor is in every jhana. This is how the Bojjhangas relate to jhanas. So there is no problem in seeing this. One of course has to understand the relationship between jhana and Bojjhanga. Every jhana. Also we must understand right jhana and wrong jhana. Prior to the Buddha's attainment of enlightenment, there were people who had attained jhanas. Their jhanas were wrong jhanas because those jhanas did not have mindfulness. Any jhana that has mindfulness is right jhana. So Bojjhanga is the first Bojjhanga is fact of enlightenment. First fact is fact of enlightenment of mindfulness. Mindfulness fact of enlightenment. That is in jhana. Okay? We have 2 minutes if you have very quick question which requires yes or no.
We don't have any additional questions. So yeah, there isn't any that requires yes or no.
Okay. Okay then. Thank you. I like to conclude this morning session. And I hope more people come and we are discussing true Dhamma. Listening to true Dhamma, teaching true Dhamma. As Buddha said, the Sukho Saddhamma Desana. Sukho Buddhanamapa, Sukho Saddhamma Desana. Happy is the birth of the Buddha, happy is the hearing or teaching the true Dhamma. So we are teaching true Dhamma that Buddha has taught us without any distortion. And therefore I like people to listen to true Dhamma, not because I say that, but because I repeat what the Buddha said. He said only true, taught only true Dhamma. So I want to wish all those who are in hospitals, patients suffering from various diseases, may all be recover very quickly and return to their regular normal life, continue their Dhamma practice, liberate themselves from any suffering, any sickness, and attain Nibbana. And all the doctors, nurses, hospital staffs who dedicate their life, sacrifice their comfort, risk their own health out of compassion for patients, may they continue their wonderful service, live long in very good health to continue their wonderful service. When we say doctors, we mean not only physical but even mental, psychological treatments in various capacities, various kind of mental, chemical imbalance. And those who lose their loved ones and are grieving, may they be free from grief and continue their very healthy, peaceful life and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May all those who support in many ways, financially and voluntarily, volunteering and various other ways, may they continue their wonderful, compassionate service and attain liberation from samsaric suffering. May everybody in the world, all, as we repeated in the early Metta meditation, may all beings without any exception be well, happy and peaceful and attain liberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you,
Thank
Bhante.
you, Bhante. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bhante.
Bhante.
Sadhu,
Bhante.
sadhu.
Bye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bhante.
Sarva Saranai.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bhante.